Hello class, we're going to continue. This is part 2, chapter 32, part 2. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the formation of the agency relationship. Take a look at the 4 different ways that an agency is created. So the first way, letter A, agencies can be created by agreement between the principal and the agent. These agreements can be expressed or they may be implied. Your text gives you an example. In case in point 32.4, this is Laurel Creek Healthcare Center. And in this case, a patient in a nursing home, his name is Mr. Bishop. He was mentally competent when he was admitted, but he just did not have the ability any longer to sign papers on his own behalf. Those papers that were required to be signed at the time of his admission included a consent to arbitration. So his spouse was with him at the time of admission, and his spouse signed the documents on his behalf. Later, after a dispute that Mr. Bishop and his family had with the nursing home, it became an issue. Was Mr. Bishop bound by the clause to arbitrate in the admission papers? And when the court took a look at it, the court said yes. Mr. Bishop had authorized his wife to sign the documents, and she signed basically as his agent. Right, second way that an agency might be created would be through ratification. Now you should remember this term from Business 12A, right? This comes up in connection with contract law. And so it's a similar idea applied here, all right? An agency by ratification means the agency arises after the fact. There is no agency to start with, but the so-called agent acts on behalf of another person. The other person either confirms the representation after the event or after the action, and perhaps the other person accepts the benefits of such representation, thus creating an agency between the two of them. And so while they may not have started out as principal and agent, afterwards they are principal and agent. All right, we're going to take a look at this third, or letter C, this third way of creating an agency, and this is by estoppel. All right, you recall the word estoppel. That indicates there will be some fraud. You're going to see some fraud in here somewhere. All right, so for an agency by estoppel, the principal represents or acts somehow. He indicates to a third party that a person is acting as his or her agent and has authority to act on behalf of the principal. The third party relies on such statement or such representation, and the so-called principal cannot later deny that agency. Right, your text includes this case in point 32.5, Azure versus Chase Bank. Now in this case, Mr. Azure was the CEO of a company, and over 7 years he had his personal assistant help him, all right, with some of his personal affairs. All right, one of those affairs that he had his assistant take care of had to do with his credit card, paying the bill every month on the credit card. All right, so the personal assistant had access to Mr. Azure's credit card and was able to take out cash advances against the credit card. Mr. Azure discovered that fraud of his personal assistant, and he fired the assistant. He tried to get his money back from Chase Bank, but the court determined that Mr. Azure had created an agency by estoppel. He had given the bank reason to believe that his assistant had authority to act and to make those cash advances or take those cash advances. So Mr. Azure had to take the loss here. He wasn't going to get his money. He did not get his money back from Chase, and he is stopped. Okay, he is stopped from denying the assistance authority. All right, our last type of agency is the agency by operation of law. And this type of agency comes up in certain situations. So what it means by operation of law, we kind of talked about that in past chapters. It just means that the law is going to recognize whatever we're looking for here. So an agency by operation of law means the law is going to recognize an agency relationship in certain situations. So if it's a family relationship, a close family relationship like between spouses, even perhaps an adult child and a parent, it's possible that under certain circumstances there will just be an agency established there without the parties having to agree to it. All right. In an emergency situation, I can probably give you a little more specific a set of facts there. But let's just say, for instance, you have a bus driver for a bus company. All right. That driver is supposed to take the bus from point A to point B, and is not generally authorized to make any commitments for the company. Right. However, if the bus gets into an accident on the road, and there are injuries to the passengers, that driver in that situation might be given emergency authority to act on behalf of his or her employer, right? Because the driver will be expected to take some steps in an emergency to take care of the passengers, to make sure they get the help they need, and the assistance that's generally required in an emergency. That would be an agency by operation of law. Right, we're going to take a look at a problem now. This is problem 32-1, and I'm just switching here my slide on my screen momentarily. All right, I'm going to switch it on your screen now too, so you can see this in your textbook. Oops. All right, going back out to the textbook. Here we are, and we're going to scroll up to problem 32-1. All right, let me read for you. Paul Gett is a well-known, wealthy financial expert living in the city of Taurus. Adam Wade, Gett's friend, tells Timothy Brown that he is Gett's agent for the purchase of rare coins. Wade even shows Brown a local newspaper clipping mentioning Gett's interest in coin collecting. Brown, knowing of Wade's friendship with Gett, contracts with Wade to sell a rare coin valued at $25,000 to Gett. Wade takes the coin and disappears with it. On the payment due date, Brown seeks to collect from Gett, claiming that Wade's agency made Gett liable. Gett does not deny that Wade was a friend, but he claims that Wade was never his agent. Discuss fully whether an agency was in existence at the time the contract for the rare coin was made. All right, so let's take a look at this and run through the possible ways that there could be an agency relationship established. All right, so do you recall the 4 different ways? The first way to establish an agency is by agreement. Do we see any agreement between Gett and Wade here that would indicate that they have an agency relationship? No, you do not see any agreement. They do know each other, but you don't see an agreement made between Gett and Wade. All right, number 2, do you see any ratification? Any indication that Gett, accepted something, some benefit from Wade or through Wade? No, you don't see that either. So you can't argue agency by ratification, right? How about agency by estoppel? And I think this is what the problem is trying to drive at, all right? Do you see agency by estoppel established here? There certainly is some fraud, right? There is some fraud in the scenario, but who commits the fraud? Is it the so-called principal, Mr. Get, who is committing the fraud? No, it's not him, right? Who commits the fraud? It is the so-called agent, Mr. Wade, who commits that fraud, all right? And so we really don't have the facts that we need to establish an agency by estoppel. Now, if we change the facts some, if Get had said something to Timothy Brown, they had talked a little bit about this coin, this rare coin, let's say, and then Get told Brown, I don't handle those type of things, but you can talk to Wade, talk to Adam Wade. He handles that for me. That would be some indication of an agency, and we could establish an agency by estoppel that way. And then Get could not deny it. All right, but we don't have those facts, so we're not going to be able to hang the agency on Get and hold him responsible for the $25,000. And then last way you can establish an agency, we just talked about it, is by operation of law. Nothing here to give us any kind of relationship, family relationship, or any kind of emergency, so we cannot establish an agency that way either. All right. Hope that helps you with what we are looking at here. How do we establish an agency relationship? Let me go back here just to close out the video. We're going to be moving in part 3 to take a look at duties. All right, what kind of duties does the agent have? So I'll see you when I pick up with part 3 later.